John Ulzheimer is known as one of our nation's most recognized credit experts. Having worked for 28 years in the credit industry, John has become one of the most prolific speakers about credit and the go-to authority on answers to credit-related questions. Credit Countdown with John Ulzheimer.
Hello, this is John Ulzheimer. I am a consumer credit expert. I have almost 30 years of experience in the credit industry. I have worked for FICO, which is the company behind the FICO credit scoring system, and Equifax, which is obviously one of the three generally recognized credit reporting agencies in the United States. So today we're going to do a little myth busting. There's a lot of incorrect information floating around out there in the blogosphere, and also, these kind of self-fashioned credit experts or finance experts who sell books and are on television spread a lot of incorrect information. And so today we're going to talk about the topic of the use of credit reports and credit scores for employment screening. This is what I call a lightning rod topic, meaning that you either have a very strong opinion against it, or you have a very strong opinion for it. Now, one of the questions that I often get from angry consumers is, what gives my employer the right to pull my credit report for employment screening? That's a very interesting question. The answer is the Fair Credit Reporting Act gives them the right to pull your credit report. It's actually in a federal statute, in the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It's one of the conditions by which a credit report can be delivered is for employment screening purposes. At the federal level, it's entirely legal. There are some states that have restricted the use of credit reports for employment screening, but only under certain conditions. And so it's not illegal anywhere across the board. It's illegal for certain positions in certain states, but generally speaking, at the federal level, a credit report can still be used for employment screening. So what is an employer looking for when they're pulling a credit report? Well, frankly, they're looking for evidence of responsibility and irresponsibility. It's really no different than an employer, checking your references or looking at information on your resume or giving you a drug test or verifying your work experience or verifying your educational experience. These are all things that are commonly done as part of the employment screening process that people don't get angry about. But the minute you start talking about credit reports, people start flying off the handle. But what you never hear from is the people who have really good credit, who were chosen for a job over another candidate who did not have as good of credit, and so it was actually beneficial to them. Those people never ever complain about the process. It's only the people who have bad credit and possibly couldn't get a job as a result. They're the ones obviously who are very angry about this process. So let's talk about, and you probably have noticed that for the last 3 minutes that I have been very, very careful choosing my wording, and I have used the term credit report repeatedly when it comes to employment screening. I have not used the term credit score as it pertains to employment screening. One of the prevalent myths in the consumer credit environment, and for some odd reason, I don't understand why it won't die because it has been proven repeatedly to be wrong. The myth is that credit scores are used by employers for the screening process, as if some employer is sitting there looking at your credit score and deciding based on the number whether or not they're going to give you a job. That is not true. That does not happen. I've never seen a verifiable example of that happening. I've heard a ton of people say, oh, no, that happened to me. The minute I started, great, finally, a verifiable example. Oh, they were actually just looking at my credit report. And so what you end up with is a lot of people who say that it happened, but it's almost like the Loch Ness Monster. Everyone says they've seen it, but no one's actually ever seen it. The credit reporting agencies have repeatedly gone on the record, as has their trade association, and has indicated that the type of credit report that they provide for employment screening is not the same type of credit report that is provided for lending and underwriting. And the type of credit report that is used for employment screening does not come with a credit score. It's not the same type of credit report your mortgage lender pulls. It's not the same type of credit report your auto lender or your credit card issuer pulls. It is a different type of report. So the credit bureaus don't even deliver scores with those reports, and so it's a systemic impossibility. Number two is, I think a lot of times consumers, and in all fairness to consumers are not holding themselves out as being credit experts, like I am and like other people do. A credit report and a credit score, they're not the same thing. They're two entirely different things. The credit report is just the data. The score is essentially the numeric representation of the data. So think of like the test and then the grade that you got on the test. That's the credit report and that's the credit score. So whenever you hear people talk about, oh yeah, I'd like to apply for a job, but my credit score is bad, or I'd like to apply for a job, but I'm not going to get it because my credit score is terrible. None of that stuff's actually gonna happen. You may not get the job because your credit report's bad, but you're not going to get a declination from an employer because of a score. So if you have any questions about that, or if you think you've actually seen a verified example of this, I'd love to hear from you. You'd be the first in 30 years to provide true and factual evidence that this actually happens. It doesn't. But drop them in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.
For more videos and credit tips from John Ulzheimer, go to www.tradelinesupply.com.